Good evening. I would like to bring to order the meeting for Monday, October 16th, 2023, of the Wilson School Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Hart? Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. McCraig? Mr. Negrini?
Here.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Please rise for the posting of the colors.
Mark time. March. Forward. Halt. Left. Face. Ma'am, permission to post colors. Post colors. Present. Colors.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
right, face. Forward, march.
Thank you, as always, for our JROTC. This evening, we have a communication piece from Mr. Adolfo Arteaga. He is our Spanish translator, community liaison, and we're happy to have you this evening.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I am Adolfo Arteaga, the new community liaison and translator for the Wilson School District. My role as a community liaison started on July 3rd of this year, and the reason why I decided to take the job is because I understand from personal experience how challenging it can be for a family to move to a new place and be unable to communicate or create relationships due to the language barrier. For the past couple of months, I've been working with the Spanish-speaking community and the school district to create better connections. I want to share with you a presentation that will provide key information on how we are working towards a better relationship. All right, so the objective of this evening is to identify the percentage of Hispanic families in the Wilson School District. We want to address and how we can address the language barrier and my responsibilities as a community liaison and translator. We also have a Hispanic Heritage Month video that was created by our Latin Pride Club here at the high school, and information about our Latin Family Bingo Night that we'll have this Friday, October 20th. Okay, so if we take a look at some of the data from our district, we have a population of a little bit over 41,000, and 15% of that population is Hispanic. 27% of our students in our district are Hispanics, and 412 students are registered with Spanish as a preferred language spoken at home. And we currently have 176 active Spanish-speaking EL students. Some of the consequences of the language barrier for the families, and this includes parents and children, miscommunication, frustration, low self-esteem, low grades, kids don't want to get involved in any extracurricular activities, feeling that they don't belong in the district, and students losing interest in school. And parents do not get involved in their children's education. Some of my responsibilities as a community liaison and translator are I translate forms and communication documents. I assist teachers in translating school materials. I help as an interpreter during IEP meetings, parent-teacher conferences, student-staff meetings. I also help educating parents about extracurricular activities. I also keep the community informed via social media, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. I also work in collaborating in the students' enrollment process, and I think that's a big piece in the collaborating in the student enrollment process. I've noticed that a lot of our families that move into the area, they struggle to register our children because of the lack of technology knowledge. It takes too long to register our kids. I believe after COVID, we've pushed everyone to register our children online, and a lot of these families are struggling a lot with that. Most of the families that are moving into the area are families that are renters. When we tell them, hey, you need to upload your lease, we're talking about 15, 20 pages long, and for them to be able to upload all those documents, it's been a bit of a struggle. Since I do have an office here at the high school, I think it's a big benefit. They can come into my office, I help them upload all the documents, we make that process very, very easygoing. I also help by organizing events for the Spanish-speaking community. We're currently working with different organizations to help the Latino community succeed, such as the Literacy Council, libraries, PA Migrant Education Program as well. Café con Leche meetings, I also organize those meetings to keep parents informed and engaged in school activities. Some of the initial impact that we're having so far is that between July 3rd and October 13th, we already had 2 Café con Leche meetings. One was the first one on August 15th at the Wilson High School. The second one was last week. We had it at Southern. The reason why I think it's a great opportunity for our community, our Hispanic families, to know the different buildings that we have for all the different facilities that we have. Not only do all the events here at the high school, but I think that it's important for them to know the elementary, the middle schools. Right now, we also, parents are actively reaching out to get information on extracurricular activities. I've noticed a higher representation in Latino students in different extracurricular activities this fall, such as soccer, running, and swimming, and I witnessed that myself because for many years my children are part of these programs, and lately I've noticed a big diversity in these programs. WhatsApp is one of the preferred methods of communication. That's how I'm able to keep a good relationship with parents, back and forth. Anything that I need to share with them, or they have any questions, concerns, they're able to reach me in a matter of minutes. They'll be able to get an answer from me. More parents also joined the Latino Parents Committee this year. And a couple of weeks ago, I took on the challenge to become the Latino Pride Club advisor. I'm working with a great group of kids from the high school. And parents feel more confident in reaching the school for any questions, concerns they have. We also have we had a support staff training on how to connect with Hispanic families. This was last week. I was able to provide some key phrases that our support staff can share with the families, and I think it's great for them to be able to learn some phrases. I think that shows how much we care about them and how we can build those relationships. Myself, I also enroll in the English Forward training program to provide ESL classes for adults. We have a need of these families to learn the language. And I think if myself, someone that speaks their language, is able to teach them English, I think that's how they'll show more interest, and I think they'll be able to catch and learn the language a lot faster. And overall, I mean, the Hispanic community feels that they have a voice in our district. All right, so this is a video that we created for the Hispanic Heritage Month. If you guys can go ahead and enjoy the video from our students.
My name is D'Angeli Montanaro, and I'm in 9th grade.
My name is Samantha and I'm in 11th grade.
My name is Kiaris Chales. My grade is 11.
My name is Maria Uyauri and I'm in 11th grade. My name is Laura Rodriguez Matias and I am in 12th grade.
Como dijeron los demás, es como un mes de celebrar los logros de los hispanos y las culturas.
Es un mes que se celebra los logros de hispanos en este país.
Es el mes cuando los Estados Unidos celebran la cultura hispana y la independencia de muchos países latinoamericanos.
El mes de la herencia hispana es un mes donde las personas estadounidenses con raíces hispanas de Centroamérica, América del Sur o España celebran esas herencias y se les reconoce como tal, latinos.
El mes de la herencia hispana se celebra en septiembre 15 a octubre 15 y es para todos los hispanos que celebran sus culturas y un momento para recordar y enseñar a los demás, como los americanos, de nuestras culturas.
El mes de la herencia hispana es una celebración en los Estados Unidos en el mes de septiembre en la que se reconocen los logros y aportaciones de los latinos y hispanos en este país.
Para enseñarle a más personas sobre nuestras culturas y nuestros logros y lo orgulloso de que somos de ser hispanos.
Porque estamos enseñando nuestros positivos impactos y celebraciones en este país.
Es importante celebrarlo para recordar la diversidad que existe en este país, también para no olvidar nuestras respectivas culturas y porque hay que siempre saber qué estamos haciendo los latinos actualmente.
Es muy importante celebrar nuestras culturas porque es un momento donde nosotros podemos recordar de donde nosotros vinimos y también podemos enseñar a nuestras futuras generaciones y también podemos enseñar a las personas que quieren aprender de nuestras culturas.
Creo que es importante porque así le podemos enseñar a los estadounidenses nuestra cultura y todo lo que nosotros aportamos para este país.
A mi país, Puerto Rico, porque no he ido a tantos lugares turísticos, pero también a otros países, para también conocer los lugares turísticos y las diferentes culturas.
Yo viajaría a México porque quiero conocer las pirámides aztecas y porque quiero conocer las ciudades y la comida mexicana.
Definitivamente iba a México porque estoy muy orgullosa de mis raíces y de mis costumbres.
Yo viajaría a mi país, ya que lo extraño mucho, y aprovecharía para disfrutar otra vez la cultura en la que crecí.
Yo viajaría a Ecuador, que es donde yo soy, pero he ido tantas veces que me gustaría ir a Argentina o a Brasil, que me gustaría aprender sus culturas y experiencias nuevas.
Yo viajaría a Puerto Rico porque esa es mi isla preciosa y siempre me encanta visitar para aprender más de mi cultura y visitar a mi familia.
Like the other said, to just keep trying, like don't like give up. Also like get friends that speak Spanish so that you know how to pronounce the words.
I would tell them to continue learning even though it may be difficult, and to watch shows in Spanish with Spanish subtitles so that they can read what they're saying and also listen to see how it's pronounced.
I would definitely tell them to continue learning the language because it opens up a lot of doors and gives you a lot of positive opportunities.
Spanish is very simple, honestly. The way you spell it, the way you read it, it's more of you need to be consistent and put effort and try to get along with people that speak Spanish so it's easier to speak and learn Spanish.
I would tell them to keep going. I know learning a new language is very hard, but learning Spanish always opens up new opportunities, and it gives you an opportunity to learn more about our culture.
Yep, a great group of kids, and as you can see, all of them are fully fluent in both languages, English and Spanish. A couple of them were born in the States. Some of them migrated at a young age. Just like myself, I migrated when I was a teenager, and I know how difficult it can be to overcome that language barrier, and that's my goal, to use my own personal experience to help these families. And last thing, I do want to invite all of you for our Latin Family Bingo Night that we'll be having this Friday, October 20th. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about our culture, connect with our families, we'll have Latin American dance, presentation, Latin food, raffles, and much more. All the funds will be raised and will be going to the Wilson Foundation for the ELSA Scholarship, which is the Excellent Student Latino Award. I hope to see a lot of you there. All right, thank you for your time.
A huge thank you to Mr. Ortega and making that connection with the families in our community, that clearly there was a big need, and that they're really appreciative that you're here in this position. So thank you very much.
President Cocker. Quería decir muchísimas gracias a Adolfo por su apoyo de nuestras familias latinas en el Distrito Escolar de Wilson, y para nuestra comunidad latina, que es la población creciendo más rápido en nuestro distrito, y somos ahora el 27%. Y como su voz aquí en esta junta, les quería dejar saber que nuestra administración estará siempre disponible en escuchar su voz. El ejemplo de crear una posición como la cual ocupa Adolfo Quiere decir que los queremos ver incluidos en todas partes de nuestro distrito de Wilson y que puede contar siempre con nuestro apoyo. Vemos que en el poco tiempo que está Adolfo en esta posición, se han unido muchas de nuestras familias que representan todas partes de Latinoamérica. Gracias y seguimos adelante. I just wanted to say thank you to Adolfo and for all of his efforts at mobilizing and including our district's Latino community, which is one of our fastest growing populations here at Wilson and is now 27% in our student population. And for the Latino community who's listening, I wanted to let you know that our administration is always eager to hear from you, and it is with the creation of positions like Adolfo's that we will continue to see our Latino community's influence in all things Wilson. Thank you for coming today, and we hope to continue to see your presence.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Mr. Maravich, we do have public participation on an agenda item.
Rules of public participation for school board meetings. Pursuant to the Sunshine Law, Robert's Rules, and board policy, the following are the rules of public participation. Individuals attending this meeting are expected to conduct themselves in a responsible and respectful manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Public comment is not question and answer, but instead an opportunity to offer comments on matters that are or may come before the board. In particular, personnel or student matters may not be commented on, even if the employee, parent, or student is speaking, due to confidentiality laws. As it relates to questions, the superintendent may assign an administrator or may speak directly to the speaker after the meeting to attempt to answer those questions. The board respectfully requests that you direct your comments to the board as a body, as it's the board will have to view, the board as a body that will need to vote in the future. Clapping, calling out, or cheering are not permitted, nor are conversations in the audience. Individuals may not approach the board tables. Individuals should make their comments from the speaker's lectern. Comments are 3 minutes, and I'll provide a 1-minute warning. Any person making threats of violence may be removed from the meeting or may be cited by local police. These expectations are outlined in Board Policy 903, which is on the district's website, embedded in board docs.
Thank you, Mr. Maravich. For public participation on agenda items, we have Keegan Orzechowski, agenda item Jamaica trip.
Good evening. I would like to share a reflection on my involvement in the inaugural trip to Jamaica, which took place during the 90s. I remember selling countless boxes of candy bars to raise the necessary funds for this trip. The goal of the trip was clear: to immerse ourselves in the world of marine biology and local culture. Little did I know that this journey would not only grant me insight into the wonders of the natural world, but also unveil a striking perspective on the disparities between a developing country and our life experiences in the United States. It truly was an eye-opening experience for a teenager like me. One aspect of this journey that often goes unnoticed is that students planning to embark on this adventure are provided with a valuable resource, a list of past participants. This list serves as a lifeline for those who wish to reach out and borrow equipment rather than invest in their own. Over the years, I've had the privilege of lending some of my equipment to students setting out on the same path that I once tread. This act of generosity and camaraderie perfectly embodies the spirit of the Wilson community. This trip to Jamaica was not only a transformative experience in the realm of marine biology, but also a lesson in empathy. It's a journey that has left its mark on my life, and I hope that we can continue to provide such opportunities for our future students. I'd like to thank Mr. Doms, Ms. Olson, and Mrs. Houts for providing this opportunity to students. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That concludes public participation on agenda items. The board met in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel and legal litigation. Approval of minutes from October 2nd, 2023. Looking for. Oh, thank you, Mr. Martin. Before I even ask, Mr. Martin, motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report. Mr. Greeny, would you mind taking that?
That's fine, thank you. Motion to approve the treasurer's report, investment report, and general and capital funds financial reports as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Greenie. We have a motion for 3.1. Do we have a second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Payment of bills, Mr. Greenie?
Motion to approve the payment of bills from the general fund in the amount of $9,265,954.68, from capital reserve $349,383.28, and from the 2021C construction fund $135,868.73 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion for 4.1. Do we have a second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
On to financial reports, Mr. Negrini.
Motion to approve the financial reports for the month of September 2023, the cafeteria, child care, and activity accounts from Southern, West, and the senior high as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion for 5.1. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Abstain?
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 abstain.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Trickett.
Thank you, President Cocker. I present tonight my report inclusive of personnel and program recommendations. Specifically this evening, I'd like to highlight 6.4, 6.5, and 6.6. All the folks included in those 3 sections of this report are either currently working for us, switching into different roles, taking on additional roles within the organization, or in some cases, new hires. So to those of you that are watching or here tonight, welcome to Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Looking for a motion to accept superintendent's report, items 6.1 through 6.8 as presented.
So moved.
Case?
Mr. Case, seconded by Mr. Martin. Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Ratification and approval of the following field trips. 7.1, request permission to approve a trip to St. Anne's Bay, Jamaica for 25 high school students from January 9th to January 17th, 2024, and 22 high school students from January 29th to February 6th, 2024. Looking for a motion to accept 7.1.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Human Resources, 8.1, request approval to authorize the superintendent to make employment commitments to qualified applicants for the purpose of filling vacancies that occur after the October 16th, 2023 board meeting, with action to be ratified by the school board at the next official meeting. Looking for a motion for 8.1.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under Student Services, 9.1, request permission to renew a contract with Conrad Weiser Decision School for 2 special education students for the 2023-24 school year at a cost of $250.93 per student per day, beginning August 24th, 2023, and ending May 31st, 2024. 9.2, request approval for a service agreement with Laura Richardson, an independent contractor, to provide supplemental speech and language therapy services as requested at a rate of $75 per hour under the term of the agreement as attached. 9.3, request approval for the renewal of a service agreement with Conrad Weiser School District to provide special education services to a Conrad Weiser student attending Wilson School District during the 2023-24 school year to be invoiced monthly for services provided at the agreed-upon hourly rates as attached. Looking for approval for, or looking for a motion to approve student services, items 9.1 through 9.3. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Do we have a second?
Casper?
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under Technology and Media, 10.1, request approval to purchase an Midal voice switch using capital funds for a total cost of $4,489.45 as attached. Looking for a motion for 10.1.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under Operations, 11.1, request approval to enter into an agreement with Stratix Systems for a RICO 8320 as per attached agreement pending solicitor review. 11.2, request approval to contract with Hummer Turfgraft Systems for the high school varsity softball field at a cost of $22,892 at the recommendation of the Facilities Committee. 11.3, request approval of proposal for SSM 3-year reinspection and 6-month surveillance inspection as per attached proposal pending solicitor review. 11.4, request approval to use Construction Master Services at a cost of $21,761.20 to pave additional areas for bus parking at the transportation. 11.5, request approval to purchase a new John Deere Gator under CoStars at a cost of $31,582.38. 11.6, request approval of a change order with Illuminated Integration LLC in the amount of $5,870 to replace the Southern Auditorium projector screen. Looking for a motion to approve operations items 11.1 through 11.6.
So moved. Case.
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Negrini, second.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Any discussion?
I could just make a couple of comments about some of the line items. With regard to the copier, our current copier, the lease is almost at a close, and it was offered that we could keep that machine, and the vendor would actually pay the copier off, and then also support the maintenance for free. So we're actually upgrading our copier from 111 pages per minute to 136 or something like that along those lines for about $57 more a month. So it was it's the right thing to do. So and there's some cost savings in there. With regard to the softball field, the age of the infield is about 12 years old, and this is to align. We did the same thing with the baseball field. At a certain point, baseball fields become dangerous to play, or mud pits, et cetera, so this is getting the softball field up to the same standards as the baseball field. Typically, around every 10 or so years, you should be doing an infield, maybe even earlier than that, so we've held off for quite some time. And I think that was it. The rest I'll save for the operations report. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Any other comments?
Yeah, the screen that's part of the Southern Auditorium project will be given to us at cost as part of the extension of the agreement with the people who are doing the work there. So I'd just like to thank them for that.
Agreed. Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and second for operations. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes?
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under Finance, 12.1, in accordance with governmental accounting standards, Board Statement Number 54, request approval of the transfer of $4 million to Capital Reserve Fund as of June 30th, 2023, and commit $2 million of the excess of revenues over expenditures from fiscal year 2022-23 in the general fund for enrollment expansion. 12.2, request approval of the accelerated budget opt-out resolution for fiscal year 2024-25 as presented. 12.3, request approval of the budget transfers dated July 1st, 2023 through October 10th, 2023 as attached. Looking for a motion to approve finance items 12.1 through 12.3.
So moved, Negrini.
Mr. Greenie, thank you. Do we have a second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Greenie?
Just briefly, this was in accordance of my report at the last meeting in terms of the transfer of excess into capital reserve and commitments for the enrollment expansion. And as indicated with the accelerated budget opt-out, we either have a preliminary budget or we can do this. So this is indicating to the community that the board is making a commitment not to exceed the 6.6 or 1.946 mils. The budget process is an ongoing process. It is a one-year process. Obviously, there's always consideration for the potential of what a millage rate increase or lack thereof may have a compounding effect in future budget discussions, but ultimately this is the reason why we're doing this, to assure the community that it's not going to go above the 1.946 mils. And I'll have more to discuss about that during my committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenie. Any other comments on finance? Okay, having a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under Curriculum and Staff Development, request approval of a contract addendum with the Reading Writing Project Network LLC for professional development on units of study in reading and writing as attached. Looking for a motion for 13.1.
Casper.
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, any comments? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under Transportation, 14.1, request approval of revenue rideshare agreement with Governor Mifflin School District for the transportation of up to 2 Governor Mifflin students to and from Capstone Academy in East Norriton, PA, at a rate of $186.01 per school day for the 2023-24 school year based on actual number of days transported per school year. And 14.2, request approval of a licensing and equipment agreement with TransFinder to incorporate Wayfinder at a first-year cost of $16,601 to install the Wayfinder system on 9 school vehicles in the Wilson School District. Looking for a motion to approve transportation items 14.1 and 14.2.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Case, second.
Mr. Case, thank you. Any discussion?
I just wanted to talk a little bit about Wayfinder for anyone who hasn't heard of it. So the Wilson District is looking to pilot this with 9 vehicles for a cost of $16,000. Part of this package is sort of an extension of StopFinder, which currently 71% of parents with bus children use and guardians. So this is actually going to also attract do attendance as well. So if a student should go on the bus, you'll know your student is on the bus, you'll know student is off the bus. Our district, as I've learned, gets many calls per day of where my kid is. Maybe they hopped on someone else's bus, or this, or maybe they haven't. But this Wayfinder will help accommodate any parents if there are alternative things that, decisions that need to be made on a daily basis. You'll know where your children are. Also, this will help with the safety with our school bus drivers, where they'll almost have like a Google map of where they need to go, so they're taking the same path each time and not getting creative. And then also, this will have a little bit more real time of bus utilization and capacity in real time with some potential cost savings. So it's a pilot program with 9 buses, and we'll see how this goes out. And actually, the kids will have like a RFID sort of tag you can put on your backpack or something. So when they do get onto the bus, that's what they'll be scanning. So there's hardware involved as well. That'll be part of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Any other comments for transportation? Okay, having a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes?
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under early learning child care, 15.1, request to approve a service agreement with independent contractor Francine Wharton to perform supervisory and professional coaching services on behalf of the district at a rate of $75 per hour for up to 12 hours per week in connection with the preschool and pre-K counts for the duration of a medical leave in the department as attached. Looking for a motion for 15.1.
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes?
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no.
Under policies, we have first reading for the following board policies. Policy 137, home education programs. Policy 137.1, extracurricular participation by home education students. Policy 137.2, participation of co-curricular activities in academic courses by home education students. Policy 137.3, participation in career and technology education programs by homeschool students. They are revised language recommended by the PSBA for board consideration as presented. Under miscellaneous, we have an enrollment report. As of October 12th, 2023, there are 6,443 students, which is a decrease of 3 students from the previous report in September. We also have 17.2, which does require action. And since it is a PSBA situation, Mr. Schneider, would you like to take that?
Sure. These positions, as you can see, the terms they are elected for, these people are all running unopposed. So it would be my recommendation that we would approve them all. So I make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider, for the motion. So we have a motion to accept for 17.2 all of the officers on the list. Do we have a second? Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to committee reports, BCTC and Student Services, Mrs. Casper.
Thank you, President Cocker. Neither group has met since our last board meeting, so I do not have any report. Thanks.
Thank you. BCIU and curriculum committees, Dr. Kennedy.
I also have no report because neither of these committees met since our last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Berks EIT, Mr. Schlossman. Okay. I'm going to keep it going with extracurricular. I also have no report because our meeting was canceled this previous month. So Facilities Committee, Mr. Case.
Does anyone work anymore? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The Facilities Committee, hard at work. There was a meeting October 9th on Monday at the Operations Conference Room at 4:30. Talked about a couple of the projects and line items for that meeting already. A couple things that were left out on the agenda was the Finance provided a capital review and a little bit of a plan of which is part of this meeting or will be that the infusion of money, 1.5 million was budgeted and 2.5 million is going to be additionally put into the capital reserve for future projects. So that was part of it. And then also, if anyone is interested in the 10-year plan or the projects that are going to be going on within the district that are planned already, that should be, I believe, online under the Facilities Committee. Also, talked a little bit about a gym floor cover that is being looked at and needed. Gym floor covers, are used at dances and events to protect the gym floor and the finish. And there's one that we're shopping for currently, so we may see that on a future agenda. talked about under transportation, the Wayfinder system pilot, also the paving for the additional bus parking, which everyone just approved. There was also a conversation with regard to insurance and flood coverage. After the last 8 inches of rain, the district would like to sort of mitigate one of our risks of flood coverage, which is currently at $15,000 for the entire district for an event. So we're working with our, with Tompkins for looking at additional coverage to at least $100,000. The west and the southern auditorium upgrades, just a quick update. For west, the major work should finish up this week, and for southern, there's some running of wires and, going on this week and next, and they should be finishing up before Thanksgiving. There was a item for a Greystone agreement. So our operations building at Cloister Court is a kind of a shared, private shared roadway and driveway. So because someone's selling one of the properties and there, a couple of other things going on, they've decided to, there's going to be an association that's created and an agreement where our facilities director will be the president of the association, which will provide Wilson with a little bit more control over maintenance and costs for snow plowing and et cetera, if something should go wrong. So it's, when Jeff Simcox is involved, he can, make sure that there's a lot of things. We have equipment that plows, so we can utilize that equipment, and Mr. Simcox keeps costs down, so it's a good thing. We also talked about Lutron system at the pool. Sort of some further investigation. We need some additional equipment and working with our vendor for that. We talked about our print shop copier and the varsity softball field. So under other items for discussion, the softball varsity field came up. Also that we're starting to get some traction on the Market Street with some of the agreements in place. There's one coming in for about $8,000. And then we also talked about the 3-year reinspection of Berkshire Heights, which you saw on the agenda. So there was not an executive session, and that was the end of the meeting. So our next meeting is going to be December 11th. And one other important thing came up. I'm sorry. The bids were pushed back to October 19th, and due to the timing, this is for the Phase 2 for Performing Arts Center. So the original thing was we were going to be voting tonight with bids prepared for the board. So one of the things that came up is it's a complex bid, and we have requested more time to get really good, accurate bids in and thorough bids, give contractors enough time to put something together, and this should help create a much more cost-effective bidding process, if you will. So with that being said, and you could talk about optics or not optics, with the public, we're being completely transparent. We were going to be voting tonight. This will delay voting on this for the next meeting, which happens to be the day before Election Day. So that doesn't change anything. Nothing has changed other than a 2-week delay. So I just wanted to kind of be forthcoming with that, just in case, from an optics perspective, people manage optics. But it is what it is. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Finance Committee, Mr. Negrini.
Thank you. Our next finance meeting will be November 6th at 4:30 as we continue on for preparation in the 24-25 budget. It will be my last finance meeting, but I think it's important for the public to understand, and I think for anyone else that will be sitting in my seat and other seats next year, understanding that the budget process is really a year-to-year process. That is the only authority that the board has is the passing of a one-year budget. There is not passing of a multi-year budget. It is a one-year budget process. What Mrs. Schlossman has done over the last several years, as we have finance committee meetings, as there's public presentation of of budgets and potential ramifications of future budgets, there is often information shared of what future millage percentage increases based upon the projected Act 1 base index may look like. And so what Mrs. Schlossman has done over the last couple of years is pointing out that in year 24-25, the millage percentage increase based upon the projected Act 1 index being a certain percentage, 25, 26, et cetera, et cetera. And so over the last couple of finance meetings in passing the budget that we did the past June, there are certainly some figures out there that can be concerning to the public in terms of the potential tax increases over future years. And Mr. Schlossman has indicated that if the district and whatever board is in place were to pass budgets at those Act 1 base index figures, that ultimately, after the 27-28 budget year, it would project to have a general fund balance of around $12 million. Now, there are a lot of variables that go into what the potential general fund balance may look like years down the road. That assumes other costs being in line with what they are currently. It assumes that all programs remain the same as it is in the current budget year. So there's a lot of variables that certainly are unforeseen as we move forward year to year. So what I asked Mrs. Schlossman to do, since she had projected out those top-line Act 1 base index projections, I asked her to project out over the next several years a 0% millage increase and a 2% millage increase, and what that cumulative compounding effect may be, again, understanding that there are a lot of variables moving forward, and understanding that over the next 4 years, putting out to 27-28, if there were to be 0% tax increases, the difference in current real estate tax revenue from the original projection that had been put out would be the difference of $13.3 million. The cumulative effect of a 2% increase year over year, putting out to 27-28, the cumulative difference would be $6.6 million. And the district has a policy of maintaining a 3% unassigned general fund balance in order to be fiscally responsible to assure that if we were in a position where funding was not coming through from Harrisburg, that the district would be able to pay their bills during those periods of time. So that is a policy that has been in place for years to assure that we have that 3% unassigned fund balance available. And projecting out those 0% tax increases or 2% tax increases over the next couple of years would certainly, with all things being the same, could put the district in jeopardy of that policy that's been in place. So again, this is not in any way suggesting what will or will not happen in the future with the board and whoever is in place here. This is demonstrative in nature to give folks in the community, to give the board who is in place an idea of their decision with their vote on those budgets, how it may impact things in the future. And with that as a backdrop, I have shared over the last 2 years with the passing of our final budget different examples of where our budget mills goes towards, whether it be transportation, extracurriculars, music and arts programs, et cetera, as ways of obviously keeping costs down or tax increases to a minimum. And in those 2 years, certainly in terms of people that have either come up to me directly, sent me emails, I've not heard from one community member to suggest what should be eliminated from the budget in order to keep those costs down. I think that's important to come forward with ideas and proposals to say, these are the ways that we're going to, keep some of these, unfortunately, rising costs to a minimum. So I'm certainly all for being mindful of all community members and the consequences of potential tax increases, but we need to have some further constructive conversations about what may have to be eliminated, what may have to be cut in order to maintain quality levels of education while at the same time taking into consideration the decisions and consequences of any tax increases. So again, we're still a ways from passing a final budget for the 24-25 year. And again, by no means is anything that has been projected out by Mrs. Schlossman and the Finance Committee is in any way a commitment to doing anything other than what is potentially in front of this board come June for that final vote. I know, Mr. Martin, in the time that he was on the Finance Committee, same thing. Those particular numbers were put out there for our edification and consideration as far as what we would recommend to the overall board. But again, it's demonstrative in nature, not a commitment to anything other than the budget year that's before the board. So that is my report for today, and I will happily report on my last finance meeting in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Legislative, Mr. Schneider?
There are things, but they're all the things that I've previously mentioned, and they're just continuing, like the new funding structure, charter school reform, things like that.
Thank you. Mr. Hart is not here this evening for Human Resources. Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Good evening. Just have a couple of items first. I wanted to let everyone know that the Wilson High School Junior ROTC will be hosting their 21st annual Berks County Veterans Appreciation Dinner Dance in the Wilson High School Gymnasium on Saturday, November 4th. Tickets can be purchased in the high school office during the school day at any Berks County Boscov's department store or at the door on the day of the event. For those of you who have been to the event in the past, you know it's amazing. For those of you who have not, I certainly encourage you to participate. It's just an amazing opportunity for us to honor our veterans that have served in our community. And we also want to publicly thank the Medicine Shop for hosting a voluntary flu shot clinic for our staff and families today in the lower house cafeteria. The Medicine Shop continues to be a great community partner that helped create an extremely well-run, efficient clinic that served over 100 staff members and their families today, which was wonderful. And this is, again, just another reminder, Adolfo did a fantastic job already letting you know about the Wilson School District Latino Parents Association first ever Hispanic Heritage Month Family Bingo Night this Friday at 6 p.m. So we have been promoting this event on all of our district communications, and we will continue to do so, and I certainly hope you will all come out and support what I hope to be an annual event. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Troutman. Education Foundation, Mr. Case.
Yes, thank you. There was no meeting, but I am happy to announce that the winner of the Florida trip was Jenny Albee, who's a librarian at Cornwall Terrace. So she won the trip to Florida. Now, so I'm sure she will enjoy her time down there with her family. And also, the Education Foundation awarded 17 fall venture grants to teachers totaling $6,617. And myself included, we look forward to having teachers and students come to the board meetings and present about all the unique learning opportunities in their classrooms and what they do with the funds. The next Education Foundation Board meeting will be held Friday, November 10th at 7:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Mr. McCray is not here this evening for a technology report. Student outreach, Mr. Bryce Heilman.
Thank you. Students have had a busy couple weeks in October. The soccer teams have begun their playoff games, and girls soccer won 4-0 against Daniel Boone in their first round of county playoffs. Girls field hockey had their senior night last week and also beat Reading 8-0. And last Friday, varsity football beat Penn Manor 24-6. This past week was also Wilson's homecoming week and was jam-packed with events for students to participate in. Starting Tuesday, we had our first Spirit Day of the week, which was USA Day. Then Wednesday was Barbie Day, and at night, Minithon had their annual fundraiser at Duncan's Corn Maze. Thursday was Country vs. Country Club Day, and finally, Friday was Pink Out. Also, on Friday, the high school watched the junior and senior girls go against each other in the annual Powder Puff football game, with seniors taking the win this year. That night was our Pink Out and homecoming game. In total, student government raised $2,630.50 for the Berks County Breast Cancer Support Services by the end of the night. On the homecoming side of things, representatives from several clubs and activities including JROTC, Minithon, Hope for Humanity, Mental Health Council, Student Government, the Music Ensemble, Spirit Club, and more were nominated onto the homecoming court for that evening. Addison Case and Caitlin Trickett were crowned the homecoming king and queen of 2023 that evening as well. The next day, Wilson Student Government held their first ever homecoming dance. It was a big success with students on the dance floor all night. We hope this is the start of a new tradition for Wilson and to maybe see it grow even larger in future years. Wilson has lots of events coming up as well. This Saturday is the marching band's annual home competition, Sound Panorama, where several bands come out to compete and perform their shows. It is a great night of music for the community, and at the end of the night, the Wilson Marching Band will be performing their entire show. Also, next Monday is the School Board Candidate Forum, hosted by Student Government in collaboration with the League of Women Voters, and from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, the candidates for the upcoming school board election will get a chance to speak a bit about their platforms, as well as be given the opportunity to answer questions created by the student government members. Afterwards, there will be a meet and greet for candidates as well. This is also the date to register to vote for the upcoming election. 2 student interns, Sindora Shridhar and Kat Spies, are holding a voter registration drive October 17th and 18th to encourage students to register for the upcoming election, which you can do if you are or will be 18 by November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Cocker.
Yes.
May I jump in just real quickly?
Absolutely.
So just want to take a minute to highlight Bryce. It's been a very short amount of time since he's been in his role in the high school, formerly as a senior. Many of the things that he shows in his pictures are a direct reflection of the work that our student body puts in. So Bryce, being in a leadership role within student government and many other organizations, is really directly responsible, as well as some of the other students that you see in these pictures, for bringing back the homecoming dance. And I don't want to, I want to make sure I emphasize this. We had 400 tickets sold, correct me if I'm wrong, in a very short amount of time.
3 days.
In 3 days. The student body, including the leadership team, I believe that's many in that picture there, came together to plan this, as well as their advisors. So I just want to highlight their advisors as well. Ms. Marconi is back there, so thank you for all you do. 400 students in 3 days is amazing. As a longtime member of the high school staff, as a former high school principal, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bender, you've been there longer than me. I don't know if we've had that in my 22 years in the school district, with 400 tickets sold in a matter of days. So it's just a testament to your focus on doing the best you can for each of your classmates and peers. I know they had a ton of fun. And again, I just want to highlight the advisors who do so much great work here, as well as the student leaders who saw this through. You don't just make commitments, you actually follow through on them, which I think is a great skill set that will serve you and the rest of your leadership team well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett, for highlighting that. There's a good point that it was student-driven, initiated, and orchestrated, so excellent job. All right, Mr. Maravich, that is the end of our committee reports. We do have quite a pile for non-agenda items for public participation, so for any Phillies fans, I'm sorry.
Individuals attending the meeting are expected to conduct themselves in a responsible, respectful manner. Public comment is not question and answer, but it's an opportunity to offer comments on matters that that are or may come before the board. Personnel or student matters may not be discussed because of confidentiality laws. Any questions, superintendent may assign an administrator or may speak directly to the speaker. Clapping, calling out, or cheering and conversations in the audience are not permitted. The individual should speak from the lectern and should not approach the board tables. 3 minutes, I give a 1-minute warning. Any person making threats or violence could be removed and or cited by police. These expectations are outlined in Board Policy 903 on the website embedded within Board Docs.
Thank you, Ms. Maravich. First, we have Tammy Hahn for Camp and Climate.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Hahn. I'm a 6th grade teacher at Wilson West Middle School, a mom of 2 Wilson graduates, and the Wilson Education Association president. I wanted to address the current board tonight to thank you for continuing to support our 6th grade camping trip. This year was a completely new experience for us as we took all of the 6th graders from the middle school at West at the exact same time into a brand new camp. Even with the rainy weather, I'm happy to report the kids had an amazing time. We had several of your children with us, either as a 6th grader or as a camp counselor. The 6th graders were well behaved and respected, and the high school counselors absolutely amazing. I talked to so many of them about their future plans beyond high school. Some are heading to college as education majors. Some are heading into the medical field, trade schools, workforce, some heading into the armed services. Many of them logged hours that they spent at camp with National Honor Society as they are required to do so. Spending time with my former students, who are now young adults, always restores my faith in what's happening here at Wilson. The programs we provide our students are growing them into amazing human beings. Even our camp nurse, the last 2 years, she was a former student of mine, and now she's serving her community as an ER nurse. 2 of the 5 inducted into the Hall of Fame on Friday, former students of mine. Former students of mine are now co-workers choosing to become teachers themselves. And this fine young gentleman, Bryce Heilman, former student of mine, representing the student body. After 26 years of teaching, I've seen a lot of success stories walk through these doors. This is an amazing school district. Now, this part is not directed toward the current board, but more so to those who have stood at this podium over the last few meetings and have lied about what's happening in this district. It's upsetting to my colleagues, it's upsetting to me, and it's upsetting to the students when we hear lies about our school, and frankly, it's offensive to those who work here every day to hear these lies that are just being told for political gain. Our schools are not failing. Our female students are not in danger. And our taxes are not slated to be raised 25%. I'm a math teacher. Even with compounding interest, that does not add up to 25%. It's not close. The lies and angry outbursts with finger pointing, it's mentally draining and it's getting old. If this is the behavior being modeled for young children at home, God help us all. I hope after 26 years of teaching in this district, my reputation as a teacher, leader, and role model has made a big enough impact on families, students, and community members that what I say tonight sticks with them. I hope you listen to what I said, and you do your homework, and you find the truth, community. We are a nationally recognized, outstanding school district, heading in the right direction, and our successes are shared by the Wilson staff, the Wilson School Board, and the students that attend here. I appreciate your time, and again, thank you, current board, for all that you've done for our students.
Thank you for your comments. Jennifer Denny, leadership.
Mrs. Hahn, you had my son, but I'm not sure that you want to thank me for that. I'm going to start with a quote tonight by Sheryl Sandberg, who is a tech executive, so a female who has succeeded in a male-dominated world. Her quote is, "Leadership is not bullying and leadership is not aggression. Leadership is the expectation that you can use your voice for good, that you can make the world a better place." I believe this firmly. One of the reasons why I'm running for school board is because I want to try to make our community a better place. I want to help my kids succeed. I want to help teachers succeed. And I want to ask this community, what do they want to see in leaders that sit up here and that make the decisions and that decide what's right and wrong for our children? Because I have seen some behavior that's frankly just concerning. I'm always impressed when new people get up and speak here, because let's face it, it's intimidating. The largest fear, not just in America, but across the world, is glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. And the reason is when you get up and speak publicly, you make yourself vulnerable. So anytime anybody comes to a school board and speaks, the correct response is exactly what is said each time. Thank you for your comment. And yet 2 meetings ago, 2 candidates for the school board decided that it would be appropriate to live text on Facebook, naming people who were talking by name and poking fun of them. One of the people they poked fun of was a mom who was here to talk about how her adopted child had succeeded in their IEP and in fact had been taken off the IEP, and yet they deemed that worthy to make fun of. That is the kind of behavior that if it was an elementary school student, they would be called bullies and held accountable for that. And it's also noteworthy that this is the same group of people that claim that our high school is the wild, wild west where there needs to be greater discipline, and yet they're engaging in that type of behavior. Harassment of parents goes beyond that. There is a current candidate for school board who has filed a SLAP lawsuit against parents in this district. SLAP lawsuit is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. These lawsuits are not meant to succeed. In fact, in most cases, they lack any merits. New York Times v. Sullivan is very clear in the standard to have harassment of public officials. What it's meant to do is to quiet people. It's meant to bankrupt people. There have already been enough attorney's hours based on the pleadings filed in this case that I am guessing the attorney's fees are in 6 digits. These are parents. These are not candidates. These are not school board members. Do you want someone like that on your school board who's going to sue parents? Let's talk about statistics. Let's talk about statistics. That last meeting, Dr. Trickett talked extensively about how the statistic that we're in the bottom 50% is simply not accurate. It may be true because it was for a time period in COVID, but it is not an accurate reflection of our school district. There are more recent statistics that are more accurate than that. But this group of candidates has sent out mailings as recently as today to the entire community saying that this is what is happening. It is a bald-faced lie. One of the things I learned in one of my statistics classes that that cities that have more accountants have more crime. Now, I really don't think Mr. Martin is out there committing crimes. The correlating factor is population. Facts, context matter. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Craig Stonehaw, Academics.
That is a tough one to follow. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I am going to have to go a little off topic here. We're going to have a conversation about lies. Nobody made fun of any parents. It never happened. There is no SLAP lawsuit. That is also not true. None of this that she said is true at all, except for the fact that there are some other academic information. We actually posted about it because of last week's meeting, and I thank you, Dr. Trickett, for giving us clarification on how the district deals with academic data. Thank you, Mr. Case and Mr. Martin for having an honest conversation. We got into some of that, and we actually went on the Future Ready PA site, and a lot of this stuff, while it's uncomfortable to talk about, we have to be able to have these conversations. We can't just yell at each other. We can't just jump up and just make accusations blindly or, just try to say we don't want to hear these things. But, the actual report is over the last 5 years from Future Ready PA, from the ESSA reports, is that we have slipped amongst Pennsylvania schools and against county comparisons. It's not detrimental to Wilson. Nobody's blasting Wilson or saying that they're doing terrible. What we're saying is there's something that we should be looking at, and we should be able to talk about it as adults. We should be able to sit down and say, okay, what's going on here? What is it? As Dr. Trickett said 2 weeks ago, maybe it has to do with how we deal with standardized testing. That's a great point, and maybe it is. And maybe we need to keep digging until we figure out exactly what's going on so we can have a conversation from a level playing field. But just coming up here and just blindly accusing people of stuff and hoping something sticks, or just jumping up and trying to get the administration to say that the parents are liars. This stuff is not sustainable. We've got to figure out who and what we want to be, and it can't be about politics. I really don't care what happens in 3 weeks. You know, what I care about is that we start having dialogue again and we start discussing things. So I went way off topic. I apologize. I know the Phillies game is coming. I thank you guys for your time, as always, and just thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Jeff Berg.
That's not a tough act to follow from an admitted liar. My stepdaughter came here 2 years ago. She has an IEP. She has a diagnosed dyslexia. For those of you that don't know what dyslexia is, it's a very basic explanation here is that words tend to get jumbled up on the page when reading and writing. Everyone experiences it differently, but that's the easiest way for people like myself to try and relate to it. You can imagine how this can make understanding and retaining material a little bit more difficult for her compared to someone without dyslexia. However, she never uses it as an excuse. And in fact, she is currently writing the most beautiful story about a transgender girl who is getting bullied for using the bathroom of the gender she identifies with. In spite of this trauma that she endures on a daily basis, when the person bullying her goes through her own crisis, she is the first person to offer support. A true lesson in rising above hate, and a story and theme, I might add, that is way more complex than I would ever be able to come up with when I was her age. Imagine my surprise when I woke up to a comment by school board candidate Amy Murray. I have copies printed out because the PAC candidates will say that I doctored this or I'm reading it out of context. You can be the judge of that. Quote, "We as a district continue to take children from other districts with IEPs for various reasons. I understand the district gets compensated for taking these children, but what is the real cost? Constant disruptions of learning for other students and more challenges for teachers is not the answer to get us back on track." Is that what my daughter is to you, Ms. Murray? A distraction? Let's not even consider that her story is written with 1,000 times more thoughtfulness, creativity, and skill than compared to your ignorant word salad. I want to point out that this comment is right in line with the way the entire slate of responsible parents candidates view children. They put them into two groups, good kids and bad kids. They, of course, get to decide which kids are good and bad. According to Murray's own comments, it seems that any student coming in from another school with an IEP is a bad kid. Their answer for the bad kids, other than not taking them at all, which is, of course, not legal, is a discipline policy that includes nonstop suspensions, cleaning toilets, serving lunch to their fellow students, and running laps. Sounds a little like child labor to me. Forget about the fact that most of these candidates don't even have children in this school, therefore not subjecting their own kids to this asinine policy. I'm simply saying that our children deserve more than this. In a recent interview, Craig Stoneha said, as a school board director, it's not my job to care about every single kid and how they identify. It's my job to be an administrator for a set of facilities. Well, as a parent, I prefer board candidates to care about every single student. I think that all of the Wilson kids deserve more than be divided into two groups, good and bad. That's why I encourage you to vote for Jennifer Denny, Bernard McCree, Bob Schneider, Brad Hart, and Lupe Casper. 5 candidates that will read our children's stories before casting them aside as a distraction from another school. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Chastity Santiago, Civil Discourse.
Everybody seems very angry tonight, so I'm going to start out here. Education doesn't begin with federal, state, or local officials. Education begins in home. Both our public and our private schools exist to aid our families in the instruction of our children, and it's time to stop acting as if family wishes were only getting in the way. Now, one side in this campaign has been telling us to stay the course. Staying the course means ignoring seniors being taxed out of their homes and told to move. Conversations focused on shifting the norms of content presentation have spiraled into rumors of book banning. Hispanics' student proficiency is performing 20% lower than their white counterparts. Political classroom disruptions are occurring. Efforts to intimidate students happen and are applauded. And 2 out of every 5 students in this district are proficient in math, and that's according to the proficiency percentage from Future Ready ESSA's report card for 2022. This community has a choice to make, not between left and right, but a choice between partisan politics, or as usual, or electing leaders that are willing to listen and bridge partisan differences. We need to stop pretending polarization hasn't been happening, which is evident tonight in the behavior that's been at this podium, and thinking it's a minor concern. It clearly exists. And I'll give you examples of when I read the following statements made by those supporting Casper, Snyder, Hart, Denny, and McCree, asking this community to stay the course. How about they refer to 6% of losers, I mean Americans who are gun owners, are holding this community hostage. And comment number 2 made by them. I do not support anyone saying I don't care if they are gay. I'm just tired of being shoved in my face. F all the way off, you un-American prick. Those are their actual words for community members. I think we can all agree. Comment number 3, I think we can all agree that the hideous, racist Republican Party are awful monsters and don't stand for anything. Comment number 4, look at this response from a jackass in this community. He thinks that the vaccines aren't required to attend school. Is this who we are as a community? Where someone who asks a question gets denounced as being against things and never for anything? A community driven to hate and dehumanizing and supporting any of their friends and neighbors who support candidates Delp, Stoneha, Orzechowski, Lockhart, and Murray? We can and we need to do better. We need to rediscover the ability to respectfully disagree and embrace an alternative narrative focused on shared values, hopes, and aspirations. We need to vote for something rather than against something. I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Keegan Orzechowski, Community.
All right, I think these comments are very appropriate for this evening. Today, I feel compelled to address a smear campaign that has been waged against myself and other candidates. It is disheartening to witness the divisive tactics that have been employed to sow discord within our community. I want to be clear, such actions constitute nothing less than bullying, and they have no place in our vision for a strong, united community. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge that I understand politics can be a fierce battleground. It's not uncommon to witness smear campaigns and negative tactics that aim to tarnish the reputation of candidates. However, what sets our community apart is the strength we derive from unity. We may have different perspectives, but we all share a common goal: the betterment of our school district and community. I believe that divisive tactics not only harm the individual targeted, but also hurt the very fabric of our community. These tactics drive wedges between us, creating rifts where cooperation and understanding should thrive. Instead of letting these divisive forces take control, we should be using this as an opportunity to rise above and come together. Our school district deserves leadership that prioritizes unity over division. I am here to offer my vision for a better future, a future where we work together to overcome challenges, where our differences are celebrated rather than exploited. It is through unity, compassion, and open dialogue that we can achieve greatness. I urge all of you to reject the politics of smear campaigns and join me in the pursuit of a more inclusive, harmonious community. Together we can build an environment where everyone's voice is heard and where we stand as one district. To those who spend their time as keyboard warriors, often contributing to the spread of negativity and misinformation, I'd like to propose a different path. Rather than engaging in destructive behavior, why not channel that energy towards volunteering and making a positive impact? The power of social media and online platforms is immense, but it can be a force for good. There's a world of difference that can be made when we come together to support local initiatives, help those in need, and create positive change. Whether it's volunteering at local charities, participating in community cleanup events, or simply reaching out to neighbors in need. Each action contributes to the betterment of our community. Let's turn this moment into an opportunity for growth and unity. Together we can rise above the smear campaigns and focus on what truly matters: the well-being and progress of the Wilson community. Let us be the example of strength through unity and a change through positive action. Thank you for your support, and let's move forward together towards a better future for Wilson. Let's go, Phils.
Thank you for your comments. Bernard McCree, upcoming election.
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to address you. First, I'd like to start by saying that men often dislike each other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they cannot communicate. They cannot communicate because they are separated. And those are not my words. Those are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, my fraternity brother, Alpha Phi Alpha. As most of you are aware, I, along with 4 extraordinary individuals, are seeking to be elected as Wilson School Director. Each of us have not come to this decision lightly, but have decided to be in a position that is proof positive for the success of our students in this district. We are facing some obstacles that seek to promote fear, distribute non-factual information, and are determined to create chaos and to stir, in the spirit of Halloween, a cauldron of ill will. That is all nonsense in an effort to betray and sway the good sense and logic of great Wilson citizens who care deeply about this community. The common goal that I share with my fellow candidates is that we are on the same page in regards to assuring this community that we are collectively and singularly focused on the best for our school district. We're moving in the right direction regarding managing our resources to give our students the best facilities, quality teachers, and maintaining our budgets and celebrating the outstanding accomplishments of our students, staff, and administrators. I refuse to stand idly by and allow these obstacles to destroy the integrity of individuals on this board who have stood valiantly to ensure that our district is held in high esteem, and I appreciate you all. Kudos to them as they have risen to the challenges throughout their time here, and thank you for your service. Mahatma Gandhi said, keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive because your values become your destiny. One of the greatest joys for me in this upcoming election that my 17-year-old grandson, who will be graduating, gets to vote for his pop-pop. And I'm not just the pop-pop of 11 in this district. As the kids refer to me, I'm everybody's pop-pop. So I want to be able to stand in that capacity and serve this district to the best of my ability and to impart what I have brought to the table or what I can bring to the table, because I manage a 9+ digit budget at Kutztown. I manage $130 million in financial aid dollars. And that is not an accomplishment that I brag about, but it is with my staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Dan Buckley, my Wilson experience.
Good evening. My name is Dan Buckley, a 23-year resident of this district and in my 18th year as a teacher at Whitfield. You may have heard that there's a school board election coming up next month. As an elementary school educator, I've always been a fan of children's literature. You're probably familiar with the tale of Chicken Little. While I do my best to limit my exposure to social media, it has been difficult to avoid the Chicken Little syndrome that seems to be surrounding this election. If I were to believe everything I've heard and read lately, I might begin to think the sky is falling over this Wilson School District. Certain parties in this election would have us believe that we have out-of-control tax burdens, that our academics are in a shambles, that there is chaos in our school buildings from a lack of discipline, that our female students are marginalized and fearful while at school, and that Wilson parents are ignored and disrespected. I do not have sufficient time to adequately refute all of these false, alarmist claims, but suffice it to say that my own experience does not coincide with these assertions. So let me tell you just a little bit about my experience as a parent and an educator in this district. My friends and colleagues at Whitfield are among the best people I've ever had the privilege of knowing. I've seen firsthand the dedication they show to their students and to the art of teaching. I've seen firsthand how they support and challenge their students academically, and how they also support them on an emotional and social level as well. I've seen firsthand their efforts to communicate and collaborate with parents to help kids realize their fullest potential. My own children benefited from these qualities by their teachers at Whitfield and by their teachers and coaches through middle school and high school. I'm the proud father of 2 gainfully employed kids, my daughter in the medical field and my son is an educator. While not all of their accomplishments can be attributed to the years at Wilson, I am certain that the foundation they built through their time in this district played an integral role in leading them to where they are today. In addition to the wonderful educators I see around me each day, I see students doing extraordinary, selfless things. I've seen many of our Whitfield students forsake their recess time to sit side by side with some of their special needs peers, exemplifying compassion and gaining a deeper understanding of and appreciation for the different gifts we all possess. I've seen high school students in the classrooms of Whitfield, not only helping younger students with their academic work, but also serving as wonderful role models that the younger kids can aspire to emulate. Wilson families, in conjunction with Wilson educators, are developing good kids, truly good kids. Wilson's not perfect, never has been, never will be. Comprised of human beings, this district is destined for imperfection. But the sky is certainly not falling at Wilson. From my vantage point, it seems the skies are clear and the wind is at our backs. If we can all pull in the same direction, if we can all work as one to help our kids become the best versions of themselves, we can and will continue to achieve great things. As my friend Ted Lasso would say, onward, forward. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Debbie Berry, taxes.
Hi, good evening. I come to you tonight as a business owner in this district. The business owners of Wilson are direct contributors to the success of this business through our tax dollars. I know you all pay taxes too. So due to recent politics, I am concerned where the future of Wilson taxes are going. And you did explain this a little bit tonight, and it gave me a little more clarity. So thank you for that. While I completely understand that due to inflation, school districts are forced to raise taxes on occasion. You know, I understand as things cost more, we have to pay more in taxes. However, I read a recent Reading Eagle article that had me concerned, and that's why I'm here tonight. I believe he's a candidate for Wilson School Board. Brian Lockhart spoke of a proposed 25% tax increase in a year, I believe, if I was reading the article correctly. So I asked the current board members to provide clarity on that, which, again, you kind of did. I wrote this beforehand. But then something else came up tonight in these meetings that's even more alarming to me. The school district here receives Title IX funding, correct? Title IX funding ensures that every student, even ones with IEPs, are given a fair education. They're given what they need for an education. That also includes transgender children, by the way. So if this school district would have a board that seems, from what I'm hearing, could go against wanting, kids with IEPs or transgender children, you could lose Title IX funding, and I'm pretty sure that's millions of dollars a year that the school would receive in funding from the federal government. So my question would be then to this board, where are you making up that money? Where's that going to come from? Again, I'm a business owner here, and didn't think I would be in a school board meeting for Wilson tonight, but due to recent articles, here I am. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you for your comments. Tammy Keener.
Good evening. I'm going to try to make this under 3. We'll see. Education, as well as democratic process, is under attack when a few board members, along with the union hierarchy, form a small group to preach a party ideology intending to discredit candidates with half-truths and outright lies, preying on people's emotions. This extreme fringe wants to take control of our entire board, as well as the superintendent. It is a shame that several on this board and candidates supported by this board have no regard for personal rights or proper behavior. This board has failed to protect individual rights, hiding behind programs such as critical race theory that states every white person is a contributor for keeping people oppressed, as well as the police that protect us on a daily basis. Some of the board members believe this, and it's part of their agenda. No reason Other reasons which compound the problem are social media, news, and board members trying to incentivize individuals to speak at a board meeting, not for the sake of children, but to push their own political agenda. Viewers and listeners have become captive to their loudest and most extreme views, often based on little or no facts. These factors have led several of the current board members to believe they know more what's best for our children than we do. They continue to push elderly residents out of homes with higher taxes, and it's only going to get worse on the forthcoming increase of 20% over the next 4 years. Even one current board member went as far to say that if elderly people can't afford it to pay their taxes, that's not her problem, and they should just sell their homes and move. Is this the leadership you want? One that hangs their hat on equity every day, but only when it benefits their agenda. Several board members have written articles trying to stamp out free speech, preaching extreme views, bullying, ridiculing anyone that disagrees with their platform. And worst of all, they believe American to be racist, immoral, oppressive, and without honor, when in reality it is people like this that continue to fuel the fire of activism without any real cause. And all too often it is used to justify excuses for disruptive actions, hurting others, and deflecting blame on everyone else but themselves. In closing, it is truly sad that this once great nonpartisan school board of the past has fallen wayside and has now become a political hotbed to push political agendas and parties. I hope you understand that this is not the best interest of Wilson education. And I am a CPA, and they didn't figure in any utilities for me to put them on that page.
Thank you for your comments. I'd like to remind the audience that during public participation, we do not make comments. No clapping or comments are allowed.
Calling out.
Calling out. I've heard it so many times, you think I'd have it memorized. Rachel Schultz, School Board Race.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak as both a parent, a community member, and an educator who is not in the union, nor was asked to be here. An educator of Whitfield Elementary, where I've proudly been teaching for just about 9 years now. Both of my children have gone through Whitfield, as did my husband several years ago. We have a class of 2020 grad and one child who's currently thriving at West with an amazing group of 8th grade teachers who's also playing on middle school baseball team. I'm proud of the opportunities that Wilson has provided for my child, especially my son, who can be a bit of a handful, but who has had the opportunity to volunteer with the adapted gym classes and the Wilson Games. This opportunity started back with the club program that began at Whitfield in 4th grade, and I truly believe that this one day could lead to a career possibly in special education. Both of my children have been surrounded by a diverse community of friends while growing up in Wilson's halls, which I firmly believe only further helped my daughter, who is now thriving in the city of Pittsburgh as a senior at the University of Pittsburgh. I want that for the 600 students of mine at Whitfield, and for my own son, who is still here, which is why last year I was up at this podium speaking out against the blatant racism which came up at a meeting, and why I'm here once again tonight to address the school board candidate who wishes to sit and represent our district in the coming months. But while at the same time, he continues to spew racist hate while addressing our band students and our LGBTQ students with derogatory terms, while saying that he doesn't feel like it would be his job as a school board candidate member to take care of those students or keep them happy in his very publicized podcast. I'm sorry, but I think any educator or parent would beg to differ. I know I sure do. It is your job to take care of all children. Education is about children, period. It's not about the buildings, It's not about the hallways. It's not about behavior. After all, that's why we are here. It's why I'm here. It's why every single one of us is here, is for the children. We want to teach our children to be better people, speaking in a manner that addresses them in the way that this person did, I will not name names, is not what Wilson represents. It's not what I want to represent for my son or my 600 students back at Whitfield. It's not what I want to represent me in my career. I would be ashamed to say that I worked for Wilson if this person sat on the board. So if you're not running to sit on a board and represent the children, all children, I think you need to reconsider your position. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Denise Hassan, Wilson's Future.
Good evening. My name is Denise Hassan, and I'm speaking tonight as a true representation of all things Wilson. I have been a part of this community my entire life. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, all through my own eyes as a student, a teacher, a parent, a community member, a grandparent, and I think that pretty much covers most of the territory. My family is a proud Wilson family. My sister is an honored outstanding alumnus. My husband and I are proud graduates, as well as our son and daughter, and we currently have a grandchild in 5th grade. And I am most proud to say that I was a teacher for Wilson at Whitfield Elementary for 35 and a half years. This school board has 2 former colleagues, Dr. Kennedy, who I worked with at Whitfield, and Mr. Hart, not here tonight, who was my principal when he was at Whitfield. But more importantly, I have seated before me 3 former students, or my kids, as I like to say, Mr. Schneider, Mrs. Cocker, and Mr. Bryce Heilman. Every child I taught, I consider one of mine. They have left a permanent handprint on my heart. My students know that I will always have total respect for them. I tell you all of this so that you can understand how very invested I am in Wilson and its future. It is a permanent part of me. I have no agenda but to keep Wilson a school that everyone can be proud of. I retired from Wilson 7 years ago. During my time, I was head of the library department for 27 of those 35 and a half years. I served on tons of committees and wrote curriculum. I drafted the policy we use today when there is a request to look at a book or material that has come into question. In my 35 and a half years, I only had 3 requests at Whitfield. All ended with that student not borrowing said book, no problems, no protests, just listening and understanding the parent's request. It has always been the parent's right to have their child not read a book. It is not a new concept. Respect for parental rights is here. The idea that they can't control what their children read is just a culture war talking point and has no basis in reality.
1 minute.
I'm a champion of information. It is important to me. I taught students how to obtain information from trusted sources. In the beginning, it was much easier to ascertain if information was well vetted. As the internet appeared, it took more care to investigate. I bring this up because I believe that there's currently far too much misinformation circulating in conjunction with upcoming election. Statements printed on mailers and door hangers sent to homes are not fact-based, but used to instill unnecessary concern or even fear for the community. Highlighted points on mailings were eye-catching current topics. I investigated many of these points and found misinformation or more worrisome, unrealistic concern. This, I feel, have all been red meat issues for a base group of supporters motivated by political opportunism. We all want good things for our school. So how are we doing that? What's the plan? Who are the experts that you're talking to? What are the realities? We will never be perfect, but we must really work with each other for a betterment of our school. Please be well-informed community members when voting. Please continue to keep Wilson moving forward so my grandson can also be a proud alumnus one day.
Thank you for your comments. That's the end of public participation on non-agenda items. I open to board discussion. Mr. Martin?
Yes, I've been pretty quiet, and I sat here listening to both sides, but I do have to make a comment tonight from Mrs. Denny when she started implicating CPAs as crooks and thieves. I think that is totally uncalled for. I think there's something wrong with that type of a comment to group a bunch of people into a situation like that, and I'm terribly disappointed to hear that coming from a candidate. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Other business from the board? Okay. Mr. Schneider?
I'd just like to throw out a go Phils there.
Oh, then you're going to be upset with me, too. So I do want to address the one community member that asked about the 25% increase in the Reading Eagle article, which I also read. I think in other sources, that 25% was attached to a length of time. I want to say 5 years. Both, whether it's 25% in 1 year or 25% in 5 years, both are incorrect. As Mr. Negrini addressed earlier, our budget is year to year. We have not started the budget process for this year. I believe Mr. Greeny is it this upcoming month?
Very early on. Still
So
working.
very, very early. And the numbers that I guess were referenced in this calculation was, as Mr. Negrini addressed, from a projection, a fund balance projection, which I have with me from the June 2023 meeting. And as Mr. Negrini did, I also referenced, I also discussed with Mrs. Schlossman, so to be informed on this discussion because I figured it would be addressed. In no calculation on this sheet do I understand where a 25% calculation came from for the next 5 years. And to emphasize again what Mr. Negrini said, this is a projection. We have not approved any sort of budget. We, in fact, tonight all voted to agree that we would not increase taxes above the base index. That's pretty much where we are. We're agreeing we're not going to increase it past the base index, and that's as far as we've gotten. So we do not have, now the projections are helpful in future planning, but to say that we have any idea what situation will be 5 years from now is completely unrealistic to project that far out. It's just for our internal purposes to make sure that we're staying on track with our unassigned fund balances. I would also like to address the fact that with the recent Supreme Court decision that our state funding, the way that we fund schools, has been considered, has been ruled unconstitutional. We also project 5 years out. Who knows what would be happening with that funding formula? So if there are individuals that could explain to me where the 25% came from off of this sheet, I would appreciate it. Like Mrs. Hahn, I was also a math teacher and also did not come up with that calculation, even compounded. So thank you for your question, and that information is not accurate. Any other discussion from the board? Okay. Dr. Trickett?
Just briefly, this conversation is really to clarify communications that I've had sent to me in passing with parents, teachers, administrators, and/or board members, focusing more specifically on the experiences our kids have in school every day, and directing all of those stakeholder groups, including our children, back to the district's profile of a Wilson graduate. I came to our schools last year, early on in my first year as superintendent, with a message around PSSA and Keystone performance. And the overarching theme of that message was, it's a data point. However, it's not the data point. Talking about what I would describe as a downward trend in proficiency performance, which means the number or percentage of children who qualify as proficient or advanced. That's one of those ESSA mandates that we have that is tracked, which translates into PDE's expectation. There's another data point that we have that measures value, the value add, which is essentially looking at the individual child and saying, what is the projected score of said child based on a variety of different factors? That PVAS data point essentially tracks a child who maybe moves into the district or who has a disability or has other variables that we can't see outwardly. And it's then reported on both of those report card scales. It's also included in the teacher evaluation process. So that's another really important data point. Again, is it the data point? No, it's a data point. It's important for our kids. That profile, and the reason I'm bringing it back up is I really am encouraging people to go out to that site. This was board approved, it's part of the vision and the goals of the organization, and it includes a lot of other pieces. And I'm going to read a few more of them to you tonight because I've read them to you in previous meetings. Students have to have credentials, essentially, in life, career, and college readiness. Years and years ago, again, I'm speaking on past practice as a dad, as a teacher, and as a principal in this school district, we focused very heavily on one data point. I believe that that was unhealthy. So we came up with these research-based best practices. And as been discussed, we are not perfect. We are far from perfect. But this is what we have right now. We believe that students should have experiences in 2 or more of the following: work-based learning experiences, competent or advanced on the NOCTI exam, earned industry-recognized credentials, advanced on industry-based assessments, competent or advanced on the ASVAB, 25 hours of community service, dual-credit career pathway courses, or 2 or more organized co-curricular activities. We also have indicators in more of the academic traditional side. Advanced placement exam, 3 or better. Advanced placement course, C or better. Algebra 2, which is a research-based gateway course to high-level math courses, C or better. Dual credit, English and or math, C or better. College developmental, remedial English, or math, C or better. That particular item, just to expand it for a moment, research proves that a child who can earn proficiency on a remedial math course and enter college with a credit-bearing course in English and math is more college ready. Again, there is no research to suggest that a one-day exam can put a child on that trajectory. So again, as we're moving forward as an organization and we make decisions regarding kids, there's a lot of nuances to what we do. And I just encourage ongoing conversation and dialogue, including our staff and our kids, as we change and alter these different targets that we have within the profile.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Dr. Kennedy.
I just want to note, I think Dr. Trickett and Mr. Case are going through the same thing, and you just recently, Mr. Greedy, went through the college admission process. We're working on that right now. And we've filled out a couple, working on it. It's much more difficult than it's very computer-based now. It's tricky. Thank you, Mrs. Marconi back there. I've never had to put my kids' PSSA scores on a college admissions. My child has never taken the PSSA, something we're super proud about. My child will go to college. He will be successful at college. He will be successful because of Mrs. Hahn, his 6th grade math teacher, who saw him at camp. He will be successful because of Mrs. Marconi, his awesome counselor. He's not successful because of some one-day score. And this will make Mrs. Hassan laugh. One time in Whitfield in 5th grade, we had a lice breakout. Do you remember this? It was one of the first PSSAs ever. It was a lice. Like, can you imagine? The kids had to go down and get their hair checked before they could take the PSSAs. What do you think the scores were like that year? Not so great. Not so great. It's one day. It's one data point. And I think it's a shame that people, for their own gains, are trying to whittle our school down to one data point. And I'd like to, again, say thank you to the administrators for their hard work, the teachers for their amazing dedication, their love of our kids, our paraprofessionals, our lunch ladies, my favorite people in the world, the bus drivers. They make our school what it is, not a test score. And I've never been as proud as I am to be a part of this district. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Other comments from the board? Okay, hearing none. Looking for a motion to adjourn?
Schneider, so moved.
Meeting adjourned.